Good evening, everybody. I'm Shelly Thomas. So we have an industrial hemp research program at James Madison University in the Shenandoah Valley, and I'm excited about all the work that we're doing. I have less time than I expected, so I, like others, am going to kind of rush through some of this. There we go. All right, so at James Madison, we're mostly focused on grain and fiber, although we do some CBD analysis right now. VDAX doesn't really want the 4 universities involved focusing on CBD, so we're not there. We're with grain and fiber, which is exciting to me because that's what Virginia already knows, and we have a lot of things that we can do here with those 2 areas of work. So over the past 3 years, we've worked with 10 different growers across the state. In 2018, we planted over 70 acres, which I'm really excited about. And our program has 3 major focuses. So we have student research, large plots, and small plots. And let me just run through a few of these things. So I'm a teacher, so I have to talk about my students because I'm get excited about them. So just real quick, we have different studies that are going on. So this is Hunter. He's working with biochar. I don't know how many of you farmers know about biochar, but it's a soil amendment, and he's checking to see how, if that does change, how strong the tensile strength is of the different fibers. We have Lucas here, that's Dr. Morton on the left, and Lucas on the right, and he's studying how the different, so CBD and THC are 2 different versions of a group of molecules called cannabidiols. There's a whole bunch of them. Mostly only people talk about CBD and THC. There's a whole slew of other ones, all of which have been shown to be medically important. We don't really talk about those. So he's starting to look at those and say, all right, do they change across the growth cycle of plants? We have investors and businesses. Everybody wants to know what is the actual market potential. We can't really get investors, we can't really get grants until we have this information. So some of our students are working on this. It's Aaron who's working on this. And Chris is working on looking at just basic seed nutritional value. If we were allowed to feed this to commercial livestock, how would that impact their health? So in the future, we're looking at a bunch of different things. If anybody has suggestions for me, let me know afterwards. I'd be happy to hear. But we are looking at different things like, okay, in the Shenandoah Valley, poultry is huge, and so we're looking at using herd, which is the inside of the stem, which is very absorbent in the poultry industry. We're looking at goat milk. So when you feed grain, hemp grain, to different kinds of livestock, what effect does that have? Because the question is, does the CBD and or the THC or anything else build up in the milk, in the meat? And right now we are not allowed to feed hemp to any commercial livestock. This is a huge problem in an agricultural state. And so we need to do that research to find out what's going on. And some of our students are all about sustainable ag, and they're looking at till versus no-till and what are the soil microbes that go along with that. And I have about 10 meetings set up in the next couple of weeks with other students. So I'm wicked excited about all the stuff they're doing. So in our large plots, we have, meaning 1 to 10 acre plots. We worked in 6 different counties. We had various soil types that we looked at. We had different plant hardiness zones. We worked with 4 different cultivars, all of these different seeding rates and planting dates from late May until early August. And I'm going to summarize the results of that in a second, along with these small plots, which were really small, but you do those for very specific reasons, where we had the exact same experiment going on in 2 different locations on 2 opposite ends of the state in Rockingham and Middlesex counties. We looked at 10 different cultivars, 2 different planting dates, 3 different seeding rates. And at this point, I would like to give a huge thank you to a whole bunch of different people. One being Virginia Tech. The only reason we could do this was because they lent us one of their small hand-pushed seed drills. I had lots of fun with that this summer, but also with all of my growers. Oh my gosh, my growers are amazing. Notice I claimed them as my very own. They're so great. So thank you to all of those folks and to all of my students. I had about 20 students volunteering for me for free all this summer and fall, and it's been absolutely amazing. They're such cool people. Okay, big picture results. Let me just sort of summarize a bunch of different things. Okay, so first, cultivar matters. And so remember, okay, so when I say cultivar, that's science-y for the farmers use the word variety. animal people use the word breed. So within one species, there are a bunch of different cultivars. So one grouping of that are the ones that have, holy crap, sorry, I just realized I only have 5 minutes left. It's really fast. Okay, right? So marijuana is different from hemp. Let me just make that really clear. It's like when you talk about Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and broccoli and kale, those are all the same species, but they are totally different critters, right? That's how different these things are. So when we talk about industrial hemp, there's fiber varieties that we normally are looking for height and diameter, grain varieties that we're looking for just to eat the seed afterward, and some of those we specialize in how much oil is in them. And so those things are obvious, that's what they're bred for. Some of the things that we didn't think so much about, but it turned out to be very important, is photoperiod. Farmers. So you have a vegetation period and then you have a flowering period. Photoperiod is the length of day. As soon as the solstice hits and we start getting shorter days, that hemp plant starts going into its flowering stage. So it doesn't matter how early you plant, you're going to have a longer or shorter vegetative stage based on the photoperiod. What we found, so here's a male plant with some flowers. The female flowers, you don't ever see them, they're hiding. But what we found was that the cultivars from Canada, as soon as June 21st hits, it's almost winter, right? So they need to get through their flowering period really fast, and they rush through that and it's done. But the ones that we bought from Europe, they kept on growing in height even after the 21st. And so that was a big difference in there. So here in Virginia, we want more of the European varieties than we do want the Canadian varieties, unfortunately, because it's way easier and way cheaper to get the Canadian varieties. Let me do this really fast. For farmers, if you are planting for grain, you're probably going to plant at 20 to 30 pounds per acre. If you're planting for fiber, you're going to plant at 60 to 70 pounds per acre. One of the reasons, if you're growing for grain, that you might bump that up to 45 is if you want more canopy coverage to suppress weeds. So you want that high density for fiber because you want skinny stems. You might think that you want big, thick diameter stems for fiber. No, you don't want that. So chat with me later if you're interested in any of that. So planting date matters dramatically because of weeds. So late May through mid-June, so many weeds, we lost a lot of fields because of that. Part of that was because of the rainy season this year. But notice here, do you see how in the distance, bright green, that's all weeds. Everything was weeds. Close up, olive brown, that's the seed on top of the hemp. So that was planted June 1st, or July 1st. So big, big difference. This is a huge deal right now because we are not allowed to use herbicides yet until they change the labels and everything. So if you're gonna try to sell your product, you can't use herbicides right now. You have to figure out how to do this otherwise. Pests are a big deal because of location. So just real quick, Japanese beetles all over the pollen. Don't worry about that. There's plenty of pollen. Who cares? Except that you're bumping up your Japanese beetle population so that they'll eat your other crops. Total bummer there. Sorry about that. But in Middlesex County, over toward the Rappahannock, the growth cycle of the hemp perfectly coincided with the growth cycle of the caterpillars. 90% of our seeds had holes in them that the caterpillars ate out the hearts out of the hemp heart seeds. So that was a really big deal. Whereas in the Shenandoah Valley, didn't coincide, no problems at all. We really hardly had anything going on with pests there. It was a really amazing difference. Again, a big problem because currently pesticides, everything is off label. You can't sell any of your food that you've grown if you spray with pesticides. As with any plant, if it gets too dry, that's bad. Hemp, it can handle a dry spell. Don't worry too much, but if you have irrigation, lucky you. But one big problem is if it gets too wet, and the timing of it getting too wet is a really big deal. You do not want a big rain right after you plant. It will majorly stunt your plants. This was a horrible problem this year, right? All that rain, no matter when we planted, everything got screwed up. We were down in Kentucky, as one of our growers, Amy, and this is the same cultivar here, as this one. Planted on the same date. The only difference was the one on the left got rain immediately afterwards. That is a huge difference and something to really be thinking about when you're planting and predicting the weather. Harvest date matters. We had a couple of fields that were perfect, they were beautiful, they were ready to be harvested, and we didn't get out there on time, and bam, rain that weekend wiped out all the rest of our fields that actually functioned. Wow. So what we saw was seeds germinating on the plant.
Oh, wow.
Right. So when people say, oh, it's so easy, maybe not so much. Let's go talk about this a lot more, but let me just say real quick, you can use your normal stuff, but your normal drill, your normal combine, your normal seed bar mower for fiber, you do need something special for the grain. Your forced air seed dryer, you have to dry that down as quickly as possible. It will naturally combust on its own if you put a whole bunch of seeds together. So yes, you want to dry that down. Someday in the future, if we go hard bore on this in Virginia, maybe you'll want to get some specialty equipment like a double combine or a triple sickle bar mower. So that's down the road a little bit. Our goals for the future are expanding into till versus no-till, cover crops. We really want to get into the organic side of things, including companion cropping, pasture to hemp field, those kinds of things. One of our major goals is to get some more growers. If anybody's interested, please email me at this email address. It's going to be on the next couple of slides also, and I'll be around afterwards, but please send me an email. Real quick, so some advice for new growers. Start small. I know some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put 500 acres in this year. Oh, don't do that. Right? There's a lot to learn in this. Start small, 1 to 5 acres. Only invest as much as you can totally lose, because 90% of our fields failed this year mostly because of the rain, but it's a big thing. You do not expect to get money out of this your first time, or maybe even your second time. I forgot to fix something there at the end. Investors, we need you. If we have any investors in this room, or if you know any investors, what we need are grain processors and fiber processors. Right now, we can harvest all we want, and then we have to send it across state lines and bring it back. That's crazy. We need these processing plants in Virginia. Let me just tell you real quick about JMU's potential program that we're trying to work on. Right now, you can register, like Jason said, pretty easily. You probably will, get your own registration as long as you haven't done something really silly in your life. But one of the problems is getting seed. Currently, the DEA believes, and I'm just saying it this way, the DEA believes that you are not allowed to order seed and bring it into the state. So currently, and VDAX is like, sure, if you get arrested for this, you will not lose your permit. Right? So you want to be careful. So at JMU, we're trying to work through how can we do this, how can we help our community, and so we're talking about, can we just order seed for farmers directly who are not actually in our research program? We are trying to work out the details of that. There's a lot of legalities that who knows how that's going to run down, especially dealing with the DEA. Even after the Farm Bill passes, say everything works the way we want it to, there are lots of rules still in the state and in other ways that we won't be able to do exactly what we want immediately. There's a lot of things still to work out. So if you are interested in being one of those growers, send me an email. What we're doing, as soon as we get it all figured out, we'll put it up on the website and you can get all the information there. We'll take questions at the end, but this is one of my favorite people in the world. He's about to come up here and talk.